My wife, Emily, said her office Christmas party would be an easy night. Show up, be polite, shake hands, and then head home. That was the plan. Instead, it turned into the night her coworkers found out what happens when a quiet person is mistaken for an easy target. The party was at a fancy hotel ballroom downtown. Emily had talked about it for weeks. Her company always went big: an open bar, decent food, and enough corporate small talk to last a lifetime. I pulled on my best suit. I did not dress up to impress anyone there. I did it because Emily deserved a husband who looked like he belonged by her side. The start was normal. I met her supervisor, Mark Davis. I chatted with a couple of people from accounting, Linda and Kevin. I even had a decent talk with Rachel from Human Resources about weekend plans. Emily moved through the room like she owned the place, introducing me with a warm, proud voice. I loved hearing that sound from her. That is when I noticed him. He had been watching us from across the room for close to an hour. Tall guy, mid-30s, I guessed. He had the kind of body that comes from gym memberships and protein shakes. He stood in a way that took up more space than he needed, arms folded, chin tilted up. It was classic peacocking. Emily had mentioned him to me before. His name was Tyler Brooks. He was the type who could turn any conversation into a story about himself. His truck, his hunting trips, his weekend adventures, his supposed toughness. Emily would roll her eyes when she told me about his latest brag, though she admitted some of the women in the office seemed to enjoy the show. The trouble started near the bar. I was getting Emily a drink when he walked up. No hello. No polite lead-in. So, you are the husband? He said, running his eyes over me like I was a used car on a lot. I have heard a lot about you. I handed Emily her drink and turned to him. All good things, I hope. He laughed without any humor. She talks about you sometimes. Says you are the quiet type. Office job. Keep to yourself. The way he said it, he made quiet sound like weak. Emily stepped closer to me. Maybe we should. No. Let the men talk. He cut in, still not looking at her. His eyes stayed locked on mine. I was wondering what kind of man lets his wife work late nights with all these characters around. The air went tight. Nearby voices trailed off. People started to watch. I kept my voice even. The kind of man who trusts his wife and does not need to mark his territory at office parties. His face tightened. Territory? This is not about territory. This is about protection. A real man makes sure his woman feels safe. I took a slow sip and let the silence sit there. She does feel safe with me. He stepped in closer, close enough that I could smell the whiskey on his breath. Look at you, he said. If someone really threatened her, what would you do? Talk him to death? The circle around us grew. I saw Emily's face off to the side. Embarrassed. Worried. Something else I could not read. Some of her co-workers looked like they were at dinner theater. That is an interesting question, I said. I set my glass on a nearby table. What did you have in mind? That is when he made his mistake. Tyler planted his hand on my chest and shoved me backward. Not hard enough to drop me, but hard enough to make a point and make sure everyone saw it. Maybe she needs someone who can stand up for her, he said, loud enough to carry across the room. Not some pencil pusher who. He did not finish the sentence. Years of self-defense training took over before I thought about it. I caught his wrist, stepped in, and used his own push to flip his balance. Simple, clean, effective. His feet left the ground. His back hit the marble floor, and the crack of it echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. Silence fell. He tried to sit up right away, more pride than pain pushing him. I made my position clear. I set my foot gently on his chest. Not enough pressure to hurt him. Enough to hold him in place. You wanted to know what real protection looks like, I said, my voice steady in the quiet room. It does not announce itself. It does not brag. And it does not need to prove anything at a Christmas party. He sucked air, stunned and angry. Get off me, you. I am not done talking. I pressed down just a little more. A real man does not need to tell everyone how tough he is. He does not scare women at work. He does not challenge their husbands at social events. And he does not put hands on people without permission. Security started to push through the crowd. They were not rushing. They were taking a moment to figure out what they were looking at. Here is how this is going to go, I said, looking down at him. You are going to apologize to my wife for how you behaved tonight. You are going to keep your opinions about our marriage to yourself, I said, steady and clear. And you are going to remember this moment every time you think about disrespecting either of us. I lifted my foot and stepped back so he could sit up. Tyler's face was the color of a stop sign. fury, shame, all of it boiling in front of his coworkers. He could have taken the exit I had offered. He did not. He pushed to his feet and bared his teeth. "You think you are tough," he snarled. "Let us see how tough you really are." He threw a wild punch with everything he had. I did not retreat. I moved through it. My counter came fast and clean. I parried his swing, caught his arm, and drove his face into my knee. The sharp crack carried across the ballroom. He hit the marble like a dropped toolbox. This time he stayed down. Blood spread under his nose in a red halo. The room went quiet enough to hear his rough breath, and, somewhere behind me, a voice calling for an ambulance. Security finally arrived. 2 men in off-the-rack suits who suddenly wanted to be anywhere else. The lead guard was heavy-set, with nervous eyes. He walked in slow. "Sir, I need you to step away," he said. I was already backing off, hands open, shoulders loose. "No problem," I said. "He attacked me twice. There are about 50 witnesses." The guard looked around at the stiff faces and then down at Tyler on the floor. "What happened here?" Before I could answer, Emily spoke up. Her voice cut through the hush. "He shoved my husband first, then tried to hit him." Her tone was steady, but there was something new in it. Steel. I had not heard that in her voice before. Linda from accounting nodded hard. "That is exactly how it went," she said, pointing at Tyler. "He started it. He got aggressive, pushed him, then threw a punch." More people chimed in. It was funny how fast the crowd's view changed once the dust settled. A half hour earlier, some of these same folks had been watching like it was a show. Now they could not step away from the aggressor fast enough. The paramedics came in minutes later. Calm, efficient, asking the right questions. Tyler was awake, but glassy-eyed. Blood ran down his lips and onto his shirt. His nose was a mess. A concussion was possible. They slid him onto a stretcher with practiced hands. As they rolled past, he found my eyes. Pain, humiliation, and a hard, burning rage. He was not done with this in his mind. Fine. Some lessons take repetition. The hotel manager appeared next. Thin man. Sharp suit. The look of someone who would rather deal with overbooked rooms than police reports. He drew me aside while the medics worked. "Sir, I need to understand what happened," he said. I gave him the plain version. He shoved me. I defended myself. He tried to hit me. I stopped him. He exhaled when I said I had no plan to sue the hotel for poor security. "We have cameras across the ballroom," he added quickly. "Everything should be recorded." "Perfect," I said. "Then you will see exactly what I just told you." While I answered logistics, I kept an eye on Emily. She stood in a small crowd, fielding questions with a stunned look. My wife had always tried to keep the peace. She looked for middle ground. She avoided conflict when she could. But tonight she had stood up for me without flinching. After the manager stepped away, a middle-aged woman from Emily's leadership team walked over. I had seen her earlier. Patricia Long, the department director. "I owe you an apology," Patricia said in a low voice. "We all knew Tyler was a problem, but we did not think he would go this far." "Problem how?" I asked. She glanced around. Comments about the women in the office. Not enough to fire him on the spot, but inappropriate. "Your wife reported him to Human Resources twice." That landed hard. Emily had told me he was annoying. She had not mentioned formal complaints. I filed it for later. "What kind of comments?" I said. Patricia hesitated, then squared her shoulders. "He told Emily that if she ever got tired of being married to a soft man, he could show her what a real relationship felt like. Another time, he cornered her in the break room and asked if you knew how to handle a woman like her." Heat flooded my chest. I had to unclench my fists on purpose. "When did this happen?" "The past few months," she said. She tried to handle it the right way. She did not want to make waves. But after tonight, Patricia's eyes went to the doors where the paramedics had taken Tyler. "I think everyone understands why she was not worried about you handling it." Emily slipped to my side, leaving the cluster of co-workers behind. "Can we go home now?" she asked. By then the police had taken statements from several witnesses. The hotel cameras would tell the whole story. There was nothing left to do but feel the room stare while pretending not to. We waited by the valet stand, shoulder to shoulder, my wife quiet in a way that felt new. After a long minute, Emily spoke without meeting my eyes. "I never told you the full story about the things he said." "Patricia mentioned something," I said. "I thought I could handle it on my own," she said. "I figured if I ignored him long enough, he would get bored and move on." She finally turned toward me. I was wrong. The car rolled up. I tipped the valet and opened Emily's door. I could feel people watching us through the glass of the lobby. By Monday, every desk in her building would have a version of what happened. We pulled out of the garage, and I said, "You want to hear something that stuck with me?" He called me a pencil pusher tonight. Said I was weak because I work in an office. Emily glanced over. "What is interesting about that?" "He works in an office too," I said. "Same building as you. He lives in meetings and conference calls like the rest of us. Somehow he convinced himself that made him more of a man." I looked her way again. Funny how that works. We drove several blocks in a quiet that felt less tense and more tired. Then she said, "I have never seen you fight before." "I do not fight," I said. "I end fights." "What is the difference?" she asked. I thought about it. Fighting is about proving something. Ending a fight is about protecting something. At home, she poured a glass of wine and sat on the couch, still in her party dress. I loosened my tie and sat beside her. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now he learns that actions have consequences," I said. "And your coworkers learn that quiet does not mean weak." She nodded slowly. "I keep thinking about his face when you set your foot on his chest. The shock. He has lived in a world where size and a loud mouth made him the alpha. Tonight he learned he was just the loudest." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I turned the screen so she could see it. "This is not over." She looked at me, worried. "Should we call the police?" I deleted the text and set the phone down. Let him make the next move. He has already shown he is not smart enough to quit while he is behind. Truth be told, a part of me hoped he would try something. Tonight was defending. If there was a next time, I would not have to hold back. Monday morning, Emily's Human Resources Department called. Professional voices. Careful words. They wanted to meet with both of us about the incident at the party. I took the afternoon off and met Emily at headquarters. One of those glass towers with a marble lobby and art that must have been expensive. We rode the elevator to the 15th floor without talking. The Human Resources Director, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s named Denise Parker, led us into a conference room and got straight to it. "We reviewed the hotel's video, interviewed witnesses, and have the police report," she said. "It is clear you acted in self-defense." She slid a tablet across the table. The ballroom cameras had done their job. There he was, shoving first. There he was, throwing the punch. There I was, ending it with minimum fuss. The audio was missing, but his posture and gestures spoke plenty. "However," she said, "this incident surfaced broader issues. That is when everything really came out." For the next hour, we learned Emily was not his only target. 3 other women had filed informal complaints over the past year. Nothing that crossed a clean legal line, the director said. Comments about their looks. Personal questions that were not his business. Standing too close. Pressure without fingerprints. Why was nothing done? Emily asked. The director shifted in her chair. The complaints were not specific enough to support formal action. He stayed just inside the line. She looked me in the eye. "Until Saturday night." "Exactly," I said. "Saturday night." "He crossed several lines, and he did it in public," she said. They showed us printouts of his social media from the weekend. Photos in a hospital bed. A caption about being ambushed at a work event. Comments from his friends full of tough talk and thinly covered threats. The Human Resources Director said they had already forwarded it all to the police. "But there is more," she said. After the prior complaints, the information technology team began monitoring his work communications. What they found was worse than I expected. Group emails with the guys where he rated women in the office. Screenshots of women's social media that he posted in chats with vulgar commentary. A list he kept that marked who was married, who was single, and who he believed was available for upgrade. Emily's name was highlighted all over his notes. He had tracked her schedule, when she stayed late, when I picked her up, when I did not. They had even pulled up research he did on me. Screenshots of my professional profile, with snide notes about my job and comments meant to belittle what I do. Emily's voice tightened. "That is stalking," she said. "It is absolutely harassment," said Denise Parker from Human Resources. "And it creates a hostile work environment for multiple employees." Then she showed us the worst of it. His browser history. He had been looking up how to file a restraining order against me. He had also been reading about assault statutes, clearly planning to flip the story and press charges himself. That plan fell apart fast once the police saw the hotel's video and heard from the people who were there. Instead of me facing charges, Tyler now had his own list. Assault, stalking, and harassment. with more possibly coming from what human resources had gathered. What is the company's position? I asked. Termination, effective immediately, Denise said. We are also considering a restraining order to keep him away from the building and all company events. Emily looked relieved, but I could see what the last few days had done to her. What about the other women he targeted? Are they safe? We are offering counseling services and the option to transfer departments if anyone is uncomfortable, Denise said. We are also increasing security and updating our harassment policies. We left the tower and walked into the dim light of the parking garage. Emily took a few steps in silence. Then she said, very soft, I feel stupid. Why? I asked. Because I did not see it, she said. All those months I told myself he was just an annoying coworker. I did not realize he was building towards something. I stopped and faced her. You are not responsible for his choices. You reported what you could, when you could. On Saturday night, the moment he dropped the mask, you knew exactly who he was. I only had to deal with him once. You had to see him every day and still stay professional. That is harder. We sat in the car for a beat, not speaking. My phone started to ring. Unknown number again. Do not answer it, Emily said quickly. It is not him, I said, showing her the screen. It is the detective. The detective did not waste words. They had enough to charge Tyler with assault, harassment, and making terroristic threats. His weekend social media posts and his text messages had sealed it. His lawyer was already talking about a plea agreement. There is one more thing, the detective added. We executed the search warrant on his car. We found something you should know about. What kind of something? I asked. Photographs of your wife, he said. Leaving work. Getting into your car. Walking to lunch. Taken over several weeks with a long lens. Heat rose up my neck. How many photographs? Over 100, he said. Some appear to have been taken inside your neighborhood. I looked at Emily. The color drained from her face. He was watching our house. It appears so, the detective said. We are adding stalking charges. When the call ended, we just sat there and let it sink in. Emily's hands shook, not with fear, but with pure anger. He watched me for months, she said. What was he planning? It does not matter now, I said. He is done. But what if you had not been there Saturday night? She asked. What if he had cornered me somewhere private? I did not follow that thought. He tried to make a scene because he thought public pressure would make me back down, I said. He was wrong about me. Now everyone knows it. A text came through from Patricia Long, Emily's supervisor. She wrote that the truth had made the rounds. People were talking about how Tyler had been harassing multiple women, and about how I had put a stop to it. You have a lot of respect here, Patricia said. I showed Emily the message. For the first time since the party, she smiled. So I married the office hero. You married a man who does not tolerate disrespect, I said. The hero part is just a bonus. As we drove home, I could see her shoulders loosen. The source of the pressure was gone. His behavior was out in the open. And now everyone knew she had someone in her corner who would act when it mattered. Only one question remained. Would he accept the loss, or try to push it further? Given his track record, I did not have much faith in his judgment. The next few weeks changed how Emily looked at our marriage, her job, and herself. It started small. She began leaving right at closing time instead of staying late to finish tasks. When I asked why, she said she was taking a hard look at her priorities. I learned those late nights had not been about dedication to the work. They were about dodging his rounds through the office. I did not even realize I was doing it, she said one evening at dinner. I scheduled meetings earlier. I ate lunch at my desk. I found errands that got me out of the building when he was nearby. I built my workday around avoiding one person. As she felt safer, the full scope of what she had endured came into focus. The pieces kept falling into place. Emily talked about the comments she had brushed off as crude jokes. The way Tyler would angle his body in a hallway to make her squeeze past. The friendly questions about our marriage that were really tests. He asked if you were the kind of man who would fight for me if another guy showed interest, she said. I thought it was small talk. What did you tell him? I asked. I said you did not need to fight for me because you trusted me. She took a breath. Now I see he was not asking about trust. He was collecting information. Once Tyler was gone, the other women started sharing too. Lunch tables turned into confession booths. A pattern came out fast, little digs about their looks, personal questions that had no place at work, and the same hallway tricks to control space. None of it felt big enough to file by itself. but together it was a clear line of behavior. We all adapted, Emily said. We changed our schedules, avoided being alone with him, and warned new hires without making a scene. It felt like having a predator in the office, and we all learned to work around it. The hardest hit came from something Patricia said in a department meeting. Emily has always been proud of handling conflict with a cool head. She thought that was professional. Then she learned how it looked to him. Patricia told me he bragged about how easy I was to rattle, Emily said, voice tight. He said he could make me uncomfortable just by walking into a room, and I would find a reason to leave. Were you intimidated? I asked. She thought for a long second. Not intimidated. I just wanted to avoid a scene. I thought that was the mature move. Now I understand that sometimes avoiding confrontation just feeds the person who wants one. The change at work showed up in small ways first. Emily stood straighter. She spoke up in meetings instead of yielding to the loudest voice. If a man cut her off, she finished her sentence anyway. Little things, noticeable things. The bigger shift was at home. We have been married 5 years. Emily has always appreciated that I am not a jealous man, that I do not need to stake a claim or put on a show. She used to call that evolved thinking. I thought men who talked about protecting their wives were insecure, she said one night. Like they did not trust their partners to handle themselves. What changed your mind? I asked. Watching you that night, she said. You were not protecting me because you think I am weak. You were protecting me because someone was actively threatening me. That is different. She started noticing things about me that had always been there. When we walk at night, I naturally put myself between her and trouble. When there is a strange noise in the house, I go look. Instincts. She used to roll her eyes at that stuff. Now she said there is something steadying about being with a man who can handle himself when it counts. Her story about the party changed, too. At first, she was embarrassed by how public it had been, worried about what coworkers would say. Then she wore it like a small badge. Jennifer from accounting told me her husband would have just called security, she said with a grin. She said a lot of the wives were a little jealous that I had someone who would actually step up. How does that make you feel? I asked. Protected, she said. Really protected, for the first time in years. Our rhythm shifted. She asked for my take on office situations instead of just venting. When we were out, she stayed a little closer. At home, she was more affectionate, more present. I feel like I am seeing you clearly for the first time, she told me. I married a man who is gentle and kind. I did not realize I married a man who is gentle and kind until someone crosses the line. Her view of other men changed as well. The loud ones she once found entertaining now looked like they were covering for something. Quiet confidence, the kind she used to miss, suddenly stood out. He always talked about his hunting trips, his truck, his workouts, she said about Tyler. He had to be the center of attention. He had to top every story. She shook her head. I thought that was just his personality. What do you think now? I asked. Overcompensation, she said. Real confidence does not need an audience. 2 weeks after the incident, Emily came home with news I did not expect. The company had offered her a promotion to a different department, in part to make up for what she had dealt with. Emily's promotion was not only compensation for what she had endured. Upper management had noticed her new backbone. Patricia Long told her, "You have been sharper in meetings, more willing to push back on bad ideas instead of smoothing things over." I asked, "Are you going to take it?" "Absolutely," Emily said. Fresh start, new team, and a raise of 20%. That night, while we celebrated, she got quiet and looked across the table at me. "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For not telling you how bad it was getting. For thinking I had to handle everything alone. For not trusting you to handle it the right way." "You did handle it the right way," I said. "You went through proper channels. You documented what mattered. You stayed professional. The only thing no one could predict was him escalating to a physical confrontation." She laughed. "If I had told you everything from the start, you would have handled it differently. Probably more aggressively," I said. "And definitely less legally." "So my way was better," she teased. "Your way built the case," I said. "My way ended it." Looking back, I understood what that night had revealed about us. Emily learned that strength is not always about confrontation. I learned that sometimes confrontation is exactly what strength looks like. The man who tried to intimidate my wife ended up strengthening our marriage. His weak attempt at dominance showed us both what real protection looks like, what real confidence feels like, and what real partnership means. He was about to learn that some lessons cost more than others. 3 weeks after the Christmas party, I got a call from the company's attorney. They asked me to attend a final meeting to close the matter. The terminated employee wanted to clear the air before his criminal trial. I should have known it was a setup. The meeting was on a Tuesday afternoon in the main conference room. When I arrived, Tyler Brooks was already seated with his lawyer, a wiry man in a pricey suit who looked like he billed by the minute. Denise Parker from Human Resources was there, along with building security and a court stenographer. Everything was official and on the record. Tyler looked different. The swelling had gone down, but his nose sat at a new angle. Faint bruising still shadowed his left eye. Most striking was the change in his attitude. The swagger was gone. What sat in its place was barely controlled anger. "I want to make something clear," he said the moment I Saturday. "What happened at that party was a fluke. You got lucky." His lawyer touched his sleeve, but Tyler shook him off. "I was not ready for you. I underestimated you. That will not happen again." Denise started to cut in, but I raised a hand. "Let him talk," I said. "I want this on the record." "You think you are some kind of tough guy now?" he barked. "You think breaking my nose makes you a man?" His voice climbed while his lawyer flinched. "I know where you work. I know where you live. I know your routine." That was the moment he stepped over the line from bluster into a direct threat. The guards shifted forward in their seats. "Are you threatening me?" I asked evenly. "I am promising you," he said. "Next time we meet, it will not be at a fancy party with witnesses. It will be somewhere private where you cannot hide behind lawyers and cameras." His attorney started scribbling as if he could write the damage away. I leaned back and let a small smile show. "That is interesting," I said, "because right now you are violating the restraining order by being in the same building as my wife. You are making terroristic threats in front of multiple witnesses. And you are foolish enough to do it while a court stenographer is taking everything down." Color drained from his face as the facts sank in. "Here is what is really interesting," I continued. "You still think this is about toughness? You still believe you lost because you were not ready, or because the circumstances were not right? You still do not understand what actually happened that night." "Enlighten me," he snarled. "You did not lose because I got lucky," I said. "You lost because you are exactly the kind of man you pretend not to be. Weak, insecure, the kind who tries to feel powerful by bullying women, the kind who makes threats instead of taking responsibility." I stood slowly. He reflexively shrank back in his chair. "You want to know the difference between us?" I said. "I do not need to tell people I am dangerous. I do not need to make threats. I do not need to stalk women or lean on coworkers to feel like a man." His lawyer tugged his sleeve again, but Tyler muttered, "We will see. We will see how tough you are when you follow through on your threats." I asked, smiling. "Please do, because next time, I will not stop at a broken nose." The meeting ended fast after that. Security stood him up and walked him out while his lawyer started dialing, probably chasing a better plea before his client sank himself any deeper. Denise Parker from Human Resources looked rattled. "Should we be worried about retaliation?" she asked. "No," I said. "He is not smart enough to do it well. He just threatened me in front of witnesses. His probation officer will have him in custody by tomorrow morning." I was right. By Wednesday, he was picked up for violating the restraining order and for making terroristic threats. The plea deal vanished. Real jail time was on the table. The last part of this story landed 6 months later. Emily's new team was humming. Her confidence at work had fully returned, and our marriage was stronger than it had ever been. As for Tyler, he served 8 months in county jail, lost his professional license, and moved to another state when he got out. The last update I heard was that he was doing construction and keeping his head down. Some men learn from mistakes. Others only learn that mistakes come with a bill. Either way, the lesson gets taught. A year later, life felt steady and completely changed at the same time. Emily thrived in her new role. She led projects with quiet authority, the kind that earns respect without asking for it. The Christmas party story turned into company legend, not because of the hit, but because of the line it drew. Harassment would not be ignored, and consequences were real. It also meant some people had someone who would step up when needed. One night at dinner, Emily said, "Jennifer from accounting got engaged. She told me her fiancé reminds her of you. Quiet confidence. Nothing to prove." "How does that make you feel?" I asked. "Proud," she said. "Like I married the right man for the right reasons." The ripple spread past the office. In our circle of friends, Husbands who used to let little slights slide started speaking up. The standard shifted. Everyone seemed better for it. At work, leadership rolled out new policies, added security measures, and made harassment training mandatory. The other women who had dealt with Tyler found their voices. They filed formal reports. They helped shape a safer workplace. Patricia said something interesting. Emily told me. The culture changed. Men are more respectful. Women are more confident. And everyone gets more done because nobody is wasting energy working around bad behavior. The legal end came quickly and cleanly. He pleaded guilty to multiple charges, served his time, and then vanished from our lives. No appeals, no threats, no dramatic letters, just consequences and then silence. Do you ever think about him? Emily asked me one evening. Sometimes, I said. I wonder if he learned anything, or if he just learned to be more careful. Does that matter? She said. Not to us, I said, but it might to the next person he meets. Our marriage found a new balance built on honesty and trust. She stopped trying to carry everything alone. I stopped assuming she would tell me if something was wrong. We talked more. We listened better. We were grateful for each other in a way that felt brand new. I used to think strength meant handling everything by myself, she said. Now I think it means knowing when to ask for help and who to ask. The best part was watching Emily take her confidence back. She spoke differently at work, clear, calm, and firm. She carried herself like someone who did not need permission. She did not accept disrespect from anyone. The woman who once tried to smooth over every rough edge now addressed problems straight on. Someone new joined accounting one week. Emily told me about it over dinner. Young guy, fresh out of college, she said. He joked that I must have gotten my promotion through connections. What did you do? I asked. I looked him in the eye and told him that if he ever questioned my qualifications again, he would find out exactly how I deal with disrespect. Then I walked away. How did that go over? I said. He apologized the next day, she said, smiling. He asked if I could mentor him on a project he was struggling with. That was the real win. Not the broken nose. Not the jail time. Not the public scene. The win was Emily realizing she did not need to shrink to make anyone comfortable. She could take up space. She could speak with authority. She could expect respect and not apologize for it. The Christmas party became a defining moment for both of us. Not because of what I did, but because of what we learned about ourselves and each other. Plenty of people spend a lifetime wondering what they are made of. We found out in a hotel ballroom on a December night, and we liked what we saw. As for him, justice ran its course. Lessons were learned. Life moved on. The best answer to a bully was not a speech or a grudge. It was building something better in the space where he used to take up room. Every day, Emily went to work unafraid was a victory. Every decision made from strength instead of fear was a small triumph. Every quiet evening at home was proof that sometimes the right response to a bully is to end the conversation for good. The man who tried to scare my wife ended up giving us something we did not know we needed, clarity. About who we are, what we can do, and what we mean to each other. Some gifts arrive in strange wrapping. This one did.